Hello everybody, Ben Woodruff here. In today's video, we're going to be visiting the BYU Museum of Paleontology. This museum is really cool. It's not a big museum, but it packs a strong punch. It's got some incredible displays. Now the interesting thing that I kind of think tips your hat off a little bit to kind of how we view things in society. How much do we value learning? Learning about science, learning about prehistory? Well, this museum right here, you look at it, it's right next to the stadium, the BYU stadium where they have their football games, which is again, a relic of the Roman Colosseum. We still do the same thing. We meet together in mass by hundreds of thousands, get together and cheer for our team. And right next to it is the little paleontology museum. But this museum, again, it packs a big punch. It's got some incredible animals, some great specimens that we're going to see. We're going to see them up close. I have an affinity for this museum. Had a family friend who kind of helped found this place. His name was Jim Jensen, or Dinosaur Jim. Usually, if you've looked in any dinosaur books, you'll have seen a picture of him standing next to the leg of Ultrasaurus, and Supersaurus and Ultrasaurus, which then Ultrasaurus got reclassed as another type of Supersaurus. But again, one of, at the time, the biggest dinosaur ever, and one of the biggest dinosaurs absolutely ever. So he was a really cool guy and kind of a self-taught paleontologist. And he's not with us anymore, but he helped founded a lot of what's going on here. Now, the interesting thing is next door, underneath this stadium, there's thousands of dinosaur bones under this stadium right now. So in the field, when you dig up a dinosaur, you wrap it up and wrap it in plaster and you bring it back, and then eventually you get to it, you open it up and prepare the specimen. But if you got people in the field doing that, that builds up. So there is a lifetime worth of work under this stadium of dinosaurs stored underneath. And it's really interesting, in my lifetime, some of the most exciting dinosaur discoveries that have happened have been stuff that was dug up decades ago, and then eventually people got to it and they're like, oh my gosh, this is a new species, really exciting. So anyways, we're gonna go in, we're gonna check out this place, and you're really gonna like it because there are some incredible dinosaurs here. Before we go in though, I forgot, there's a couple more things I gotta tell you that's really kind of interesting about this museum. First of all, it's free. So what are you doing? Get over here and go see it. It's free. And again, it's a real gem of museum. The other really interesting thing about it is BYU, Brigham Young University, is run by the LDS Church, so it's a religious run museum. And it's been interesting as I've had professors on this campus of all different kinds, from theologians to professors of science and paleontologists. And one of the interesting things, especially in years past, it's getting better now, but there were theologic professors that would come to the paleontologists here and say, you're teaching falsehoods. There's no such thing as dinosaurs, they're fake. And the paleontologists are just like, you're wrong, I don't know what to say, but these are real. So sometimes you'll have people with certain views that are theologic and some that are scientific, and they butt heads a little. So here's what I say. You know what? Let the theologians teach theology. Let the paleontologists and the scientists teach paleontology and science, and where it crosses over, that's for you to work out in your head. But you know what? If you want to look and understand how the world works, go to paleontology and science. If you want to understand spiritual well-being and get your spiritual welfare, go to theology. And I think that usually works out pretty well. So that being said, it's kind of an interesting museum because, again, how is it to have such a cool museum that sometimes would have professors from campus come and tell them you're doing a lie? And it's like, no, we're doing good science. We're going to see some really good science right now. You can hear me okay. They've got some big old fans. It looks like they did some carpet cleaning in here, so hopefully you can hear me. But you have the obligatory cool mineral collection. Most paleontology museums will have some really neat stuff. There's malachite. This is where you get copper from. Cool different crystal specimens. Ooh, we got some precious opal. This oftentimes in Australia fossilizes fossils. So the opal itself will replace bones, and you have these beautiful shimmering rainbow fossils. Rhodochrysite, that's one of my favorites. Now next, I told you about Jim Jensen, Dinosaur Jim, family friend. This is a little display kind of paying homage to him. You have even, here he is standing next to the Supersaurus leg bones there. It's kind of cool. He was an artist as well, you know, making life sculptures. But the way we view these animals changes over time. But it's really, really noisy here. So I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm just going to get B-roll of all the stuff. So it'll be silent, and then I'm just going to dub this over. So I'll teach about what all this stuff is later so you don't have the fans blowing, and I think that's going to be better. All right, well, we're testing this out now. So I'm recording this from my basement after the fact. This is Tyrannosaurus. This is one of the coolest dinosaurs. It's a contemporary of Allosaurus during the Jurassic. The teeth were narrower and more delicately built and more blade-like. But if you look on top, you see these three horns. There's sort of a horn in the middle and two, one over each eye. The eye is in the middle there, not in the front or behind. It's that, so the horns are a little bit in front. Those had keratin growing over them and were huge. Now this over here is baby dinosaur. This is Dryosaurus. Baby dinosaurs are rare. They're delicate, and it's interesting to be able to see. This has protomolars, which is rare among dinosaurs. Mostly dinosaurs that were plant eaters just ate their food and digested in their stomach. Chewing was kind of rare. So Dryosaurus is one of the early chewers. We'll see a few more as we're looking around here. Now this is Allosaurus. This is Utah's state fossil. We are closer in time to Tyrannosaurus rex than Tyrannosaurus rex was to Allosaurus. That's how far back this guy is. But it is our state fossil. It was a very active predator. The teeth were blade-like instead of post-like, like a T-Rex, but they were thicker than the Ceratosaurus we just saw. Very long limbs, long arms, three-legged fingers, and a very long tail for counterbalance. Now, this is a new type of Allosaurus, recently discovered, on display here. Allosaurs continued to evolve all the way into the Cretaceous, all the way into T-Rex's time, and we'll see what they look like later. This is an Apatosaurus femur. Apatosaurus was originally called Brontosaurus. It was misnamed. There's a whole story to go with that. But this is the femur, big old huge bone that you can actually touch. And this is part of the pelvis of a sauropod. Now, this is massive. This is like 5-6 feet wide. You can see, I mean, it's amazing to think. Oh, and here's, okay, this is Camptosaurus that we're also going to be looking at. Up here, Camptosaurus is an early herbivore, also the Jurassic, something that would have been likely hunted by Allosaurus, but just a very basal version of a herbivore. Now, this is an actual skull. You can see parts are missing. This is Allosaurus. Big, powerful teeth. You can see those little pits above each teeth. There were sensors. They had very sensitive jaws. They could sense and they probably had lips over. This is Camarasaurus. This is a baby. Camarasaurus is a very stout, very advanced sauropod, a long neck, long-tailed plant eater, and again, one of the early chewing dinosaurs with protomolars. He was a browser, not a grazer, and his teeth show that. He would eat leaves and branches instead of ferns. Okay, this is a burrowing dinosaur. This is a Nanosaurus. I don't know much about this species, but it's very delicately built. And again, protomolars. Very advanced for its time, and apparently they found it in burrows, so it was a burrowing species. Now, these are elements of the pelvis of a Stegosaurus, very famous Jurassic dinosaur with those beautiful blades, little shields. Now, those, well, looks like we're moving on here. Okay, so these are pieces of petrified wood. This thing's about 5-6 feet. Well, it's like 5 feet tall. Petrified wood retains the shape, but not the mineral content. It has been replaced by other minerals. This one has mostly been replaced by beautiful red agate, which is really cool. So sometimes these are gemstone quality. Here's some other elements of dinosaurs. This is part of a new excavation. And you can see a little bit of everything in here, but what's kind of cool is there's evidence of violence of a tooth mark being bit through a dinosaur. So this is something that happens. Now, this is one of the bigger carnivores at this museum. This is Torvosaurus. Every kid's going to see this and say T-Rex, but it's not. It's Torvosaurus. This is a beautiful cast that was articulated. There is another copy of this cast at the Thanksgiving Point Museum. Again, a very powerful dinosaur, long arms, very long, killing claws, nothing like a T-Rex. These were usable claws. The feet, powerful, well-muscled, and able to pull off, able to hold something down while you inflict a killing bite. Big, strong, thick femurs, and a solid rib cage. So this is a powerful predator. Much smaller than T-Rex, also much earlier than T-Rex, but again, a famous Utah species. Now this is Moabosaurus, named after because it was found in Moab, Utah. It looks very much like a Camarasaurus, and I always mistakenly think it is. This is a really cool size and shape. It's stout. This is an enormous dinosaur, and yet it's able to fit in a one-story tall room. So big post-like legs and a powerful sternum, long shoulder blades to help it move. And again, you look at the shape of the pubis bones, helps you know which lineage it is in. These are part of the bird-hipped dinosaurs. But if you see this over here, this is a Dromaeosaurus. Dromaeosaurus is in the same family as Velociraptor. He's about 12% bigger than Velociraptor. Now, this is a really good cast that was donated to the museum. The only other cast of this species in Utah is at Thanksgiving Point. The smaller and more famous cousin Velociraptor, the only place you can find those is at the Hutchings Museum in Lehi. Now, the tail on this individual is articulated with a curve, which is probably inaccurate because you look towards the end of the tail and there's osteophyte tendons. So likely 80% of the tail was stiff and acted as a counterbalance, and only there at the base did it move. But long, very usable arms. And this is part of the lineage that gave rise to birds. This is Gastonia. Gastonia is an ankylosaur. Now, it's covered with all these spikes. These spikes are osteoderms, but they had keratin that grew much longer. So everywhere you see a spike or a blade, those were 20 to 50% longer and were razor sharp. This is not a very big ankylosaur, but again, he's called kind of the chainsaw of the ankylosaurs because a lot of those blades would overlap when he would turn and would cut. And again, so very small. Most of the other ankylosaurs have some sort of a clubbed or spiked tail. He does not, but he has a ton of armor. He's kind of a cool one. And again, this is another Utah original. And here's the head and some of the neck vertebrae from the species. And again, you can find articulations of it also at Thanksgiving Point and also at the museum in Price, Utah. This is their active lab, although there was nobody in it. And you can see they are working on articulating some sort of ornithopod. This looks like it's either Gallimimus or Strethiomymus. This is a dinosaur that was featured in the original Jurassic Park when a T-Rex ate it when it was chasing the whole herd. So it's kind of like an ostrich, but with a big long tail, although they haven't put the tail on yet. It's kind of a cool dinosaur, kind of a cool size. And moving along here, this is Suchomimus. Suchomimus is related to the famous Spinosaurus of Jurassic Park 3. We have learned much more about this family since Jurassic Park 3 came out, and it turns out they were aquatic, and they swam, and they were built far differently than Jurassic Park 3 mentioned. But this is the smallest member of this family line. There's several other members of it, but look at these teeth. These are fish-catching teeth. They're arranged in very strange ways, and they're almost look like mosasaur teeth. The way they're oriented, the way they're shaped, and the way they're grooved. This is meant for catching floppy fish. Now, this is a crown jewel. This is Utah Raptor. Utah Raptor is arguably my favorite dinosaur. Really cool species. This is the king of the raptor family. So Velociraptor is the most famous. Velociraptor is much smaller. Look at those killing claws, inner claws, just like on a golden eagle. Big, long arms with ripping claws. Most dinosaurs did not use their arms much, but these guys did. Again, this is the lineage that gave rise to all birds. And we find these guys with fossilized feathers. Take a look at that toe. Deadly killing claw. It's epic. Fast runner, very agile, active hunter, very intelligent, but again, covered with feathers. We know this now from the fossil record. The tail, I don't like the way this was articulated. We don't have the full tail, but they gave it kind of a nice little swirl to make it fit the room. But honestly, same thing on its cousin here, his smaller cousin, a Dromaeosaurus, probably had an osteophyte tail. So in other words, they probably couldn't have swung it around like that. It's another look at Moabosaurus from a distance here. Again, I had to keep trying to keep people out of the shot. There was a lot of people in the museum today, and trying to get shots without people in it was tricky. Cool dinosaur. All right, here's many of people's favorites, Tyrannosaurus rex. This is the nostril. This is a pit that holds salt water. This is a circular thing to cool things down. It's covered with skin. This is the eye socket. And this is where the muscles for the jaws go. The brain case is inside of that. Big, long, post-like teeth. These are bone-crunching teeth, not cutting teeth. They will cut, but these are teeth that have no problem biting through bone, which is very different than Allosaurus or Allosaurus's descendants. Very famous dinosaur, very iconic. And of course, Triceratops was his competitor at the time. They lived at the same time, and we have evidence of Tyrannosaurus rexes killing Triceratops. Now, on this Triceratops, you see the horn on the nose, and you see these long horns above each brow. These had keratinous growths. They were much longer. So that is the bony core, just like a bull has a bony core with keratin growing over it. Now, this one is a new one that I had not known of. This is Teratophonius. This is a smaller tyrannosaur. It's one that I had not known of, but it's really kind of a cool one. Kind of a snappy looking guy. It looks like a cross between Allosaurus and Tyrannosaurus. And here is a young Tyrannosaurus, fully articulated. Tyrannosaurs are a broad family. We believe they started off in China and spread out, but the full Tyrannosaurus rex is an all-American animal. But look at this broad tail and these powerfully built femurs. This is an animal built for strength, not speed. Sissy little arms, not used. And again, those probably had little feathered wings on them. But again, a really powerful, beautiful animal. Now, this one over here, this is Giganotosaurus. People always wrongly pronounce this Gigantosaurus. Gigantosaurus. Nope, Giganotosaurus. Kind of a descendant of Allosaurs. This is during the Cretaceous. Allosaurus was from the Jurassic and eventually evolved into several other family lines, including these. The teeth, again, still more blade-like, just like Allosaurus. So they can hit bone, but these are more cutting teeth, where Tyrannosaurus rex has more of bone-crunching teeth. Big nasal passageway, able to breathe deeply and cool off that brain with those more powerful jaws. It's really kind of a cool dinosaur. Okay, now we're going to go see one of my favorite ceratopians. I don't really care for ceratopians, but this one I love. This is Monoclonius, the one-horned ceratopian. Not very big at all. Again, that horn would have been much longer in life. And you can see over the frill, there would have been skin. Okay, those little blades would have been longer, but over those holes, there would have been skin and probably blood vessels that would flush it so that they could change bright colors. This was another animal that could chew. Now, this is a type of mosasaur. Mosasaurs were aquatic reptiles. It's kind of like a swimming crocodile. These guys were pretty huge, pretty powerful. A lot of people are big fans of them. And here's some of the actual material before they made the cast that you saw up above. Kind of a cool species. Again, would have made swimming the ocean pretty interesting. If you wonder what that thing is around the eyes, most animals have those, including birds. They're just a calcified section of tendon around the eyes to protect them, but it usually dissolves. These are a type of cephalopod. Cephalopods are your squid and octopus family. Most of these are ammonites. This is a particularly good display. I've never seen one this good, where it actually shows up above how they're all taxonomically classified. Normally you go to a museum and it's like, here's an ammonite. So again, these were squids with a shell. The only member of this lineage we have, well, we have a couple members alive today. The one that's most famous is a nautilus. This is a Maiasauri. Maiasaurs are famous because we have found lots of hatcheries. There's a paleontologist who has found where nesting sites where there were eggs and parents tending them. It's very famous. I think Jack Horner is the paleontologist who did all that work. This is Pteranodon, a very famous pterosaur. Pterosaurs are not dinosaurs. Even though this had an enormous wingspan, look how delicate the bones are underneath. Just delicate, tiny, like little kitten paw feet. Look how narrow the pelvis is, like a 3-inch wide pelvis, big old rib cage, and a keel bone to anchor flight muscles. There's one finger and there's the other fingers. So in some ways it's like a bat, but all the rest that you are seeing there is one big elongated finger that held a membrane. So it was like a bat with one finger instead of being spread out. You can see the head. It had no teeth, and it shows you the side. Pterodactyls are often wrongly called pterodactyls. This is a pteranodon. Pteranodons were huge. Pterodactyls only had a 1-foot wingspan. Look them up. You'll see the difference. This is an articulation. I don't remember which species this is, but this shows the classic dinosaur death pose. Most dinosaurs, when they die, would curl up like that as the tendons dried out. This is Deinosuchus. This is the largest alligator that ever lived. It's basically an alligator the size of a bus. Now, if you want to see the comparison, go to the Hutchings Museum in Lehi, Utah, and you can see Sarcosuchus, which is a crocodile the same size. So alligators and crocodiles the size of buses. Pretty epic and pretty cool. Okay, this is a type of hadrosaur, which is a duck-billed dinosaur. This is called Rhinori, I believe it's called. And you can see protomolars, good chewing teeth. Yeah, Rhinorex, that's right. Rhinorex, so it's another Utah original, but look, fossilized skin from this species, so we can actually get a sense of what its skin looked like. Really kind of cool. Pretty rare to have skin fossilized, but it does happen sometimes. Okay, moving over here, we got things later on. This is a prehistoric crocodile. This is probably Goniopholis, which is a semi-terrestrial species. I'm not sure if that's what species it is, but crocodiles have been around since before the dinosaurs and are still here now. Got all kinds of plants. It's really easy to overlook plants because dinosaurs are so more exciting, but got a lot of prehistoric fish. And here is a fossil stingray. It's pretty cool. And here is some species of gar. And you've got some other primitive mammals that a lot of these are not analogous to anything we have today. Turtles, again, have been around since before dinosaurs and long after. Most of these fossils here are from the Eocene. This is a Diplomystus fish. And here's an enormous palm leaf. And again, we find these in Utah and Wyoming in the Green River Formation, which is during the Eocene, after dinosaurs, but long before modern day. It's really cool. This is like a 5-foot wide palm frond. It's pretty cool. Now, up on top here, we have this right here is Bromotherium. Bromotherium is a relative of giraffes. The only relatives we have of this today are giraffes, pronghorn antelope, okapis, and mountain goats. This is a Megacerops, which is, there's nothing like it today. It's just kind of a weird thing. It's a mammal. And this last one is another very famous Utah animal, Uintatherium. A lot of museums have a lot of good, the Price Museum has a full skeleton. If you go to the museum in Vernal, there's some beautiful life recreations, life-size. You can see it's a very famous Utah animal. Okay, over here, we're going to take a look at this first. This is the skull without the snout of a muskox. We think of muskox as being Arctic, but during the Ice Age, 10,000 years ago, they ranged all the way down here to Utah, and we find their skulls with some frequency, which is kind of a surprise. Utah used to be very cold. This is Megaloceros. This is not an American species. This is a European species. What's also called the Irish elk. It's extinct. And this is a giant ground sloth. These were very common here in Utah during the Ice Age. You look at these enormous front claws. They would curl these hands forward and walk on their front feet like a gorilla. And their back feet, if you look, well, take a look here. going to zoom in on these back feet. They curled them inward, so they walked just like tree sloths walked. They didn't spread out, and they're a very strange animal. They're from the lineage called Xenartha, which includes sloths, anteaters, and armadillos. Now, if you take a look at this head, there's no front teeth. So they undoubtedly had prehensile lips with which to browse, and then they had very powerful molars for breaking down rough, thick plant material. This is the eye socket here. And if you look just how beefy those legs are, the pelvis is very wide to allow for a large gastrointestinal tract. We always see this. If you ever see a wide splayed pelvis like that, it is probably a herbivore. Now these are the remnants of a smaller species of ground sloth. It's Megalonyx. These were found in the foothills above Provo, and I met the guy, I think he's passed away now, who found them, and they were just kind of sticking out. He wrote it out. Got a couple of saber-tooths here. The one on the left is Smilodon fatalis, the famous saber-tooth of the Ice Age 10,000 years ago. The other one is a okay. This is Thylacosmilus, which is a marsupial saber-tooth, convergent evolution. They were not at all related. This is a Smilodon skeleton. I've got one of these in my own collection that's even bigger than this one. These were very common, but they were actually camel hunters. They were targeting camels, and their teeth fit perfectly in between the neck vertebrae of camels. It's a very misunderstood animal. This is called a great American stag. It's a very odd species, and I believe only 2 skeletons have been found, but they were complete. So what would that be like to have such a weird, wild species that evolved, and there's probably millions of them over the eons, and only a couple of them survived? This is a mammoth, woolly mammoth. If you look that in the center, that is the nostrils. This down here is the eye socket. So you can see why people who would find mammoth bones back in the day thought that they were cyclops, and we believe that's where kind of the myth of cyclops came from, is people seeing and misinterpreting mammoth skulls. Okay, so we're going to come back over here. This is another primitive mammal that is not analogous to anything alive today, but if you look, it has enormous jaw muscles, a huge sagittal crest on top, and enormous jaw muscles for crunching. This is Coelophysis, one of my favorite dinosaurs. This is a famous cast of, there were thousands that were found at the Ghost Ranch of the famous artist Georgia O'Keeffe. Look her up, does really cool, weird art, but they happen to find thousands of these that died in some sort of a flood event, like a wash that got flooded and they all got mushed up against one side. So it's a very famous dinosaur. So this is a coelacanth, which is a fish that we thought was extinct, but it turns out is still alive today. Got a few more bones over here. I can't remember what these were. Now I'm recording this after the fact, so I don't remember what we're looking at there. These are from before dinosaurs, and these are actually at the front of the museum, and I didn't show them in the beginning because there are too many people there. This is Dimetrodon. It's not a dinosaur. It's actually related to mammals and very likely had fur. This is this is the direction life was going, and there was a big, huge extinction that wiped all these guys out, and then that gave a chance for dinosaurs to rise up. But look, this guy's an active hunter. Look at his legs, look at his head, look at his teeth, and we're going to compare him in just a second to a relative that was a plant eater from the same time. So again, very active legs, very forward set eyes, very powerful jaws, able to, tear prey apart. This over here, oh, hold on. This is Edaphosaurus. Edaphosaurus is a plant eater that has a very similar build, but look at the legs. The legs are more dumpy because this is, especially when you look at the back legs, it just looks like an iguana. Come on, move over. Back legs are just kind of splayed out, just sitting there. So again, these are early relatives of mammals, and it's pretty cool to see these things. So anyways, that's kind of a whirlwind tour of the BYU Museum. I hope you enjoyed seeing all these animals. If you liked the video, if you could hit subscribe, I really appreciate it. And always remember, life is an adventure, so never stop learning and never stop exploring. We'll see you next time.